The once mighty US dollar, the world's leading currency, is now on shaky ground. Historically, the US dollar has been the backbone of the global economy, a symbol of stability and strength, and the benchmark by which all other currencies are measured. But recent indicators show that this once unyielding fortress is beginning to crumble. Reports from various financial institutions have signaled a weakening in the dollar's position. HSBC Global Private Banking, for instance, anticipates a significant decline in the dollar's strength due to an economic slowdown in the United States. The Federal Reserve's plan to reduce interest rates in the second half of this year is expected to add to this decline, making the dollar less attractive to foreign investors seeking higher yields. These developments are not occurring in isolation. They are part of a broader trend, a pattern of events that is slowly but surely leading to what many are calling the collapse of the US dollar. This is not a term to be used lightly. A collapse signifies a drastic change, a fundamental shift in the way we understand and operate within the global economy. The implications of such a collapse are far-reaching and profound. It would not only affect the United States, but would send ripples throughout the world, impacting everything from international trade to foreign policy, from global financial markets to the everyday lives of people in countries far removed from the United States. The dollar's decline is not just a matter of numbers and exchange rates. It is a reflection of investor confidence in the U.S. economy, and as such, its weakening position is a cause for concern. If the dollar continues to falter, it could lead to a loss of faith in the United States as the world's economic powerhouse. As the dollar crumbles, the global economic landscape teeters on the edge of a seismic shift. The world as we know it, with the US dollar at its center, could be on the brink of a radical transformation. A multitude of factors contribute to the dollar's current predicament. At the core of this predicament is a slowdown in the US economy. Now, you might ask, how does an economic slowdown affect the dollar's value? Well, when an economy slows down, it means that less goods and services are being produced and consumed. This can decrease demand for the country's currency, as less currency is needed to buy these goods and services. Consequently, the value of the currency can fall. Next up, we have the Federal Reserve's plan to reduce interest rates. Interest rates are a key tool used by central banks to control the value of their currency. When interest rates are high, it becomes more attractive for foreign investors to hold that currency as they get a higher return on their investments. However, when the Federal Reserve signals that it plans to reduce interest rates, this can lead to a decrease in demand for the dollar from foreign investors, which can cause its value to drop. Lastly, there's the turmoil in the U.S. regional banking sector. The collapse of SVB Financial has caused significant disruption in this sector. This has led to a decrease in investor confidence, which has further reduced demand for the dollar. After all, if investors are not confident in the stability of a country's banking sector, they are less likely to want to hold that country's currency. So we have an economic slowdown, a plan to reduce interest rates, and a crisis in the banking sector. These factors combined have set the stage for an unprecedented downturn in the value of the US dollar. The ripple effects of the dollar's decline are far-reaching and profound. This isn't just a singular economic event with isolated consequences. We're talking about the world's reserve currency here, the backbone of international trade and finance. So when the dollar stumbles, the echoes are heard around the globe. Firstly, let's consider trade. The dollar's decline makes U.S. exports cheaper and more attractive to international buyers. That sounds like a good thing, right? Well, it's a double-edged sword. While it might boost exports, it also means imports become more expensive. This can lead to inflation as the cost of imported goods rises. For countries heavily reliant on U.S. imports, this can create significant economic strain. Beyond trade, the dollar's decline impacts international relations. The U.S. has long held sway over global affairs, largely due to the strength of its economy and the dominance of the dollar. However, as the dollar weakens, so too does this influence. This shift in power dynamics could lead to increased geopolitical tension and uncertainty. Additionally, the dollar's decline could potentially pave the way for other currencies to rise in prominence. The euro, the yen, or even the yuan could step into the spotlight. This shift could reshape the global economic landscape, altering the balance of power and introducing a new era of economic relationships. Finally, the decline of the dollar impacts global economic stability. The world's economies are interconnected like a carefully balanced web. When the dollar, a central node in that web, wavers, the entire system can tremble. This can lead to volatility in international markets, affecting investments, retirement funds, and the global economy's overall health. The world watches and waits as the ramifications of the dollar's fall unfold. This is not just an American story, but a global one, and the final chapters are yet to be written. The effects of the dollar's collapse hit close to home, impacting every American. As the value of the dollar plummets, the consequences at a domestic level are far-reaching and significant. Let's start with the economy. A weaker dollar means our goods and services cost more to produce. This is because many of the raw materials and components we need are priced internationally in other currencies. As the dollar falls, these costs rise, putting pressure on American businesses. In turn, these businesses may have to cut back on production, lay off workers, or even close down entirely. Concurrently, inflation rates rise. The cost of imported goods goes up, and this affects everything from the food we eat to the clothes we wear and the cars we drive. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of the average American, making it harder to afford the essentials, let alone life's little luxuries. The squeeze on consumers and businesses alike can lead to a vicious cycle of economic contraction. As businesses struggle and lay off workers, unemployment rises. This reduces consumer spending further, which in turn hits businesses even harder. If this cycle continues unchecked, it can potentially lead to a recession. Moreover, the dollar's collapse can have serious implications for the housing market. With inflation rising, the Federal Reserve may be forced to hike interest rates in an attempt to stabilize the economy. Higher interest rates, however, make mortgages more expensive, which can lead to a downturn in the housing market. This could potentially trigger a wave of defaults and foreclosures, reminiscent of the housing crisis in 2008. Lastly, let's not forget about the national debt. The U.S. owes trillions of dollars to creditors, both domestic and international. A weaker dollar means these debts become more expensive to service. If the dollar continues its downward trajectory, there's a risk that the U.S. could even default on its debt, which would have catastrophic consequences for the American economy. The plight of the dollar paints a grim picture for the future of the American economy. As the dollar continues to falter, the question on everyone's mind is, what's next? The future of the U.S. dollar is a topic of intense speculation and uncertainty. As we look ahead, there are two main possible scenarios. The dollar could either recover or continue its decline. Let's explore these possibilities. Firstly, the recovery scenario. This would likely involve the Federal Reserve implementing strategic measures to stabilize the dollar. For example, the Fed might decide to raise interest rates, which could attract foreign investors seeking higher yields. This influx of investment could potentially strengthen the dollar. However, such measures come with their own challenges. Higher interest rates could slow down economic growth, causing a ripple effect across various sectors of the economy. Now let's consider the second scenario, the continued decline of the U.S. dollar. If the dollar continues to weaken, this could create a self-perpetuating cycle. As the dollar loses value, it might become less attractive to foreign investors, leading to a further decline. This could impact not only the U.S. economy, but also the global financial system, given the dollar's role as the world's primary reserve currency. In between these two extremes, there are a myriad of other potential outcomes. For instance, the dollar might stabilize at a lower value or fluctuate wildly as the market responds to changing economic conditions. The steps towards stabilizing the dollar are fraught with difficulty. They require not only sound economic policy but also political will. In an era of polarized politics and global uncertainty, finding consensus on these issues is no easy task. It's also important to remember that the future of the U.S. dollar is not only shaped by domestic policy, but also by global events. Changes in the global economy, geopolitical tensions, and even unexpected events like pandemics can all influence the trajectory of the U.S. dollar. So as we gaze into the crystal ball, it's clear that the future of the U.S. dollar is anything but certain. It's a complex interplay of economic forces, political decisions, and global events. And as we navigate these uncertain times, the fate of the U.S. dollar hangs in the balance.